Welcome back. Former IPID boss Robert McBride has a tough task ahead of him, cleaning up rogue elements within the State Security Agency while also working to increase its capabilities abroad. The president has put his faith in a man and appointed him to head the agency's foreign branch. This move follows a high panel report on the SSA led by former Minister Sydney Mufumadi. That report recommended that the agency revert back to its old ways of doing things and divide the SSA into a foreign and domestic service, if you will. McBride, who used to do this, I beg your pardon, the man who used to do this job is Moe Shaik. He's joining us now to talk more about this. Mr. Shaik, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for being on ENCA. Is Robert McBride the right choice for the job?
Absolutely the right choice. I really want to congratulate the President, the Minister, and of course Robert McBride for having accepted the job. And I think it's the right appointment. And it could be the beginning of turning around the State Security Agency.
And what are the priorities going in? Because a quick Google search of the State Security Agency at the moment, this particular unit that he's going into, talks about vacancies that have been left unfilled for long periods of times, internal fighting in the agency itself, and other just forms of a disorganized service.
Well, I think Robert has his job cut out for him. I would think that his first and almost immediate task would be to stabilize the organization, to address the issue of low morale, and thirdly, to define the mission of the foreign branch of the SSA, and I hope it goes back to the name of the South African Secret Service, to formulate the mission in the context of a world that now is grappling with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and to make sense of the issues that are starting to affect Africa in a very big way. And of course, if you just look at our borders, there are increasingly conflicts in Mozambique, which should be a almost immediate concern for Robert and his team.
And why has this foreign branch been allowed to be in such disarray for such a long period of time, given its very crucial mandate?
Well, I think generally we have an answer to that. And I think because intelligence officers were not allowed to do their jobs, they were interfered with by either ministers or presidents. And I think now, under the new administration, the very hard task of rebuilding the entire security cluster can happen. And that does not only include the Foreign Intelligence Service, but include the domestic service, the NPA, crime intelligence, etc. So the people in the current security cluster have their work cut out for them.
I'd like your reaction to suggestions that Mr. McBride's appointment to head the State Security Agency's foreign branch is in some way a means to appease him after a rather acrimonious time as he was leaving the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. We know he and Minister Bheki got into quite a row at that period.
Well, that was a very unfortunate fallout between the two. And I don't want to enter who was right or who was wrong in that, other than saying that Robert is a very good operator. He's a very good corruption buster. And in this particular role, I know for one that the president is not in the mood of making appeasing appointments. I think this is the right person for the right job. And also we should not forget that Robert has a fair amount of experience in conflict resolution, East Timor, etc. And he's had a fair amount of experience in the then Department of Foreign Affairs, which is allied very closely to the work of foreign intelligence.
I mentioned this coming into our conversation, the Mufumadi report, which said, in fact, what needs to happen now is a return to the old way, where you have an international and a domestic state security sort of agency, if we can frame it in that way. But the bill that would see that happen, the amendment to the Intelligence Act, is still waiting for cabinet approval. How much of a a stumbling block would that be in Mr. McBride's work going forward?
Well, it really depends on the work culture that would exist in the SSA together with the ministry. I think they can work on the basis that the Act would be amended to reflect the recommendations of the Mufumadi Commission. So it is really a way they actually work, knowing that the bill will be changed or the Act will be changed. And really at this point in time, it's going to be the delegated authority between the Director General or the Acting Director General of the SSA, together with Robert in respect of the accounting officer's role. And I think if there's agreement there and interim measures put in place, it could work quite smoothly. Of course, but this is going to go into the nature of the levels of cooperation that's required to go forward. And if the level of cooperation becomes somewhat antagonistic or conflictual, then we would have the same situation that is prevailing, which is paralysis.
Which brings me to my next point. So forgive me for cutting you off, about political interference and how big of a threat that is to the work of our intelligence service.
Well, and that's why I say the appointment of Robert is such a great one. We know that Robert has the complete courage to speak truth to power. We know also that he is dependent on, he's not dependent on the job, so to speak. He has repeatedly shown that he is willing to take on politicians, even if that comes at the cost of him keeping his job. So all of those things stand in good stead, and I think it's all of those things that the President took into account and the Minister took into account in appointing Robert as the head of the South African Secret Service, or the foreign branch of the SSA.
Moe Shaik, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.